Okay, so this is my video on my experience transitioning from controller to mouse and keyboard. And I still play both, but I was getting to the point where I can play mouse and keyboard consistently, and I can like pretty much play almost at the same level as I was playing on controller, and I played controller for a long time. And I'm making this video because I felt like there were a lot of questions and little tips and stuff that I needed, and I couldn't really find them. There were some great videos on the transition from controller to mouse and key. One of the best ones was Calamity's video. It's like Calamiti, Calamity, and he has a great video. That was probably the most helpful. And the main reason that I think I wanted to switch was like to do stuff like this, you know, like the movement and the tap strafing. But I figured out how to use the config files on Steam to be able to tap strafe on controller, and that pretty much unlocked most of the movement stuff that I wanted to do. But it still really wasn't enough because of the precision and everything. I was the type of player that on controller I was basically doing everything to make my experience more like the mouse and keyboard experience. Like my ALCs were pretty ridiculous. They were linear response curve, maxed out yaw and pitch, and 170 ADS yaw and pitch speed, which does make it look more like a controller. Sorry, more like mouse and keyboard. The problem is that you sacrifice what's good about the controller, which is the aim assist. Like when you play on settings like that, you are fighting your aim assist. And when you're a player that plays every day or all the time, like if you're a gifted player that plays all the time, like for example Ecstasy, who plays on max settings, then yeah, you're gonna be fine. But you're not, unless you have that time every single day, it's just not gonna work out for you. And I had that experience a lot when I was switching, because my time was split between controller and M&K. So my 170 ADS and yaw was good when I played it all the time, but after I started switching, it started to hurt me. It was really hard for me to hit shots that I was hitting before. And I realized that I need to use controller to get the best out of controller, because controller's not, it's just a different thing. You can't turn controller into M&K. You can get it close, but it's just not gonna be the same. So that's kind of the basis for this video. But I'll get into the tips and the stuff that made, that I learned along the way, that if I knew, it would have been a bit easier. And so the main, so let's get into the main difficulties with switching. And that is, the first one is your left hand. Your left hand, it's just not used to having, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 keys that you're operating with, 20 or 25 keys. When on controller, your left hand is only doing a few things, and your controller is like handlebars, right? It's like you have your hand in a place, and then you have your fingers operating the triggers. So there's not much room for error. Your hand isn't flying around. But on a keyboard, your hand is really flying around the keyboard. You switch to 1, you switch to 3, you are using the spacebar, you're using your Z, you're using shift, I use shift to crouch. Most people use start off. Most people use crouch, control to crouch. I use it to sprint. That's just how I learned it, and that was one thing I didn't want to like mess around with. But that's the main thing. And my main advice for that is just like, it just takes time and it's hard. It's really hard at first. The most frustrating thing for me, like desk banging, frustrating, was like my ring finger. Trying to use my ring finger to hit the Q, the 1, and the 2.
Going to phase.
And it was really difficult, and the tab for your map.
Contact with hostile.
So what some people do is they use their mouse buttons as their weapon 1 and 2, but that kind of takes away from like your you don't really want to use your like aiming hand to do like combat things. Some people do it, but like I think that if you look at any pro, they use pretty much close to default settings. One pro that doesn't use default keybinds is Timmy, but he still uses 1 and 2 as weapon 1 and 2. And I think that must give some advantage that I don't fully understand yet, but it's definitely worth it. So that was the main thing. But you just have to understand that like with any new skill, you're just gonna start off being really bad. And like if you can become a good like technical player on controller that's tap strafing and looting and stuff like that, you can definitely do it on mouse and keyboard. Like basically it's doable. That's the thing. Like I didn't think it was like, I felt like I had some kind of issue, but just know that it's doable. The next most important thing is your sensitivity. So my sensitivity, look how low it is. So I have 1600 DPI because apparently that's like what's good, gives you the best input delay for your sensor, but look how low it is. It's on 0.6. So that's what some people would call an eDPI of 960. You just take 1600, your DPI, and you multiply it by your sensitivity, and that would be an eDPI of 960. A lot, like the reason why, something like inspired me to play mouse and keyboard was like watching and he has a pretty high DPI, DPI and sensitivity compared to most pros. Most pros use around what I'm at right now, around a 960. That's what Sweet, Hal, Reps, pretty much most players. Hardeki, flashy player. Look, you can still whip your camera around. You still have all of the like fun and good parts about being on mouse and key. Like you still have that. Just look at that precision down range. But you still will have better tracking up close. So that was something that was really difficult for me playing. Trying to play like Fade and trying to play on his sensitivity. When like some people are just like low key built different. Like some people are just different. Like Asu and it's Timmy and Fade. Like they just have that. You know, they're just like really mechanically gifted and that kind of thing. But look at the best players. Like a lot of the best pro players don't play like that. They play on a moderate sensitivity and they still have all the benefits. So that's one thing I would say when I moved down from Fade sensitivity, which is around like 1400 eDPI. I immediately, it wasn't like a muscle memory thing, it was just immediate benefit. And I moved down to Monday's setting, which is also what Hakis uses, and that's around 1200 eDPI. And I saw some pretty good improvement, but it was still so hard to track people up close. So that's what the like benefit of controller is that you can track people really well up close, and mouse and key doesn't really have that, but mouse and key does have the flicks and things like that. So I still just felt like something was lacking, and my tracking was so bad up close. And then I switched to the Hardeki POW reps type area of sensitivity, and I mean now I'm like one clipping people. It's like just so much easier, and some people are just different. Like Mande is just different. Like they're pros. You know, not everyone can play like that, and then, nor should you. I mean, there's no point. Look how like you can still flick just fine. You can still go from target to target just fine, and you don't. You can still aim really well. So that's the next thing. That's sense is really important. And I saw immediate differences, and I played better, and I didn't lose any of the benefit of playing on mouse and key. There are even pro players like Monsoon, one of the historically best ALGS players, and he plays on half of this. He plays on like I don't know, like 500 or 600 DPI, and he still has great, like, you know, all the benefits of mouse and key. He probably just has a bigger mouse pad than most people, and is probably just, you know, just got used to that sensitivity. So the next thing that gave me a lot of trouble was like my mouse grip, okay? I just couldn't fathom that you could hold your mouse like in a palm or a claw, like have the mouse like connected to your palm, and you could still have control it and be able to move up and down freely with your shoulder. That just like it didn't make sense starting off. So I would fingertip grip, and that's how I would go up and down with my fingers, like I'm doing right now. The problem is with that is that I would have to hold the mouse away from my palm a little bit, which I think kind of increases your sensitivity if you have your mouse further away, but if you have your mouse closer to you, it kind of makes it more controllable and reduces your sensitivity. But the point is that when you're first learning mouse and key, you need to have, you need to develop your shoulder. So why was that so hard for me? Why was that so hard for me? And it's because my desk and seating position. So when you're at your desk, you want to have the right height, because if you are too low, it's really hard to move up and down because so much of your arm is sitting on the desk. But if you have a higher position, then you can move freely your arm up and down. So here, my whole arm is going from the top of my mouse pad to the bottom of my mouse pad. This is the bottom. That's about the top. So that was something that I had to learn. If you are using your fingers, maybe like more advanced players, yeah, but you need to develop that arm, because even people who are using their fingertip grip, they are still moving their shoulders up and down. Like that's on my fingertip grip. They're still moving their whole arm up and down. And that's something as an early mouse and key player. And I remember the first day when I was like, okay, this is really frustrating for me. I'm having a really hard time tracking people up close. I'm getting killed in every 1v1. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try claw grip with the mouse connected. You know, the mouse is fully connected to your hand. It's basically a palm, right? It's basically a palm grip, but you have your pinky and ring finger on the side of the mouse, and you are putting less work with your fingers and a little bit more work on your shoulders. And what that does is gives you a lot more precision and opens up a lot of the benefits of mouse. So I think that if you've been playing for a while, then you can switch to you won't have any issues, but you need to learn how to do that shoulder movement. So your desk is important. So what I did is I stood up next to my desk. I'm standing up next to my desk right now, And your desk should be about, when you're standing, your desk should be where your fingertip meets your leg. So if your arm is just resting straight down, your desk should be somewhere around where your fingertips are leaning down, so that when you sit down, you are a proper height above your desk and your shoulder can move freely and do that up and down work for you. That will increase your tracking, your aim, and everything. Everything will be a lot smoother. And then from there, if you really want to learn fingertip, which is I'm on fingertip right now, it's a lot easier. But I use claw. It's claw is probably the best, and people who have really mastered claw or palm grip then can kind of move to the fingertip grip, which not many pros do, but some players, a lot of players that play MK do like to do that. Something that I do is I just have my thumb connected to the whole side of the mouse, my palm making some contact, my pinky knuckle making some contact, my ring knuckle making contact. I have a Pulsar X2 Mini, and I have 18 by 10 centimeter hands, and that makes everything easier. Even in Modern Warfare 2, other games like that, just have that mouse as an extension of your arm instead of an extension of your fingers, and a lot smoother. Your aim will be a lot more controlled, and it won't be shaky. My aim was so shaky. So that was really important. Definitely keep that in mind. So mouse grip, you want to have your mouse connected to your hand and your palm, and you want to use your shoulder. Mouse pad, you obviously just go ahead, and if you don't have a lot of money, you don't want a higher end mouse pad, go look at the Ponage mouse pad. It's a good size. It was $15, and I use it right now until I get a bigger and nicer one. I've also used a speed pad, which was a little bit too hard for me to control, especially with a 50-gram mouse like I have. And yeah. So I think those are the most important things. Those are the things I had the big questions about. And yeah, if you are making that transition, or you want to make that transition, I know that Apex right now has the whole like controller overpowered thing, but that controller has always been the same. They haven't nerfed or buffed it. It's the same, and mouse and key players are still, like, you still get all the benefits. They're still just as good. And I just have had a lot better experience and a lot more fun playing on mouse and key. And yeah, I really like it. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything, comment. I'll respond. And now I'm pretty much playing mouse and key more than controller. I like it more. And then next I'll drop a video on how I got my ALCs a way that is good for consistency and maximizes aim assist, and that you can use if you want to go back and forth from mouse and key and you don't like the default sensitivities. Then yeah, that'll be a good video for you. Alright, so thank you if you watched. Enjoy it, and hope this helped, because I definitely couldn't find the information that I was looking for as a transitioning controller to mouse and key player. So thank you for watching, and yeah, have a good one.